Today we are reading Saturdays Are for Stella by Candy Wellens, published by Page Street Kids. This is a beautiful and heartwarming story about a little boy who loves spending every Saturday with his grandma Stella, who spoils him rotten and lets him do all sorts of cool things. But when Grandma Stella has to leave us, the little boy is very sad until he finds a new person to spend his Saturdays with. I love the heartfelt emotions here that this could happen to any one of us, and it's very true to life. But I also love the twist ending and the way things were passed down to the next generation. I hope you'll enjoy it. Saturdays Are for Stella by Candy Wellens. George loved Saturdays. Saturdays were for Stella. Sometimes George and Stella went out on Saturdays, to the park, to the dinosaur museum, and sometimes even as far as downtown. Normally, George did not like going downtown. Downtown trips without Stella meant waiting in boring offices, eating strange foods, and trying on scratchy clothes. But with Stella, George ate frozen yogurt, threw pennies in fountains, and rode on carousels. Whenever they passed a toy store, and they always passed a toy store, George went home with something fun. Sometimes George and Stella stayed in on Saturdays, hosting ninja tournaments, fighting off alien attacks, and sometimes doing really unusual things too. Stella knew how to make cinnamon rolls without popping open a tube. She owned giant flat frisbees and could get them to play music. And she never ever tired of reading George's favorite books, listening to his favorite jokes, or admiring his growing collection of bouncy balls. George kept a running list of the best things about Stella. The way her arms wrap me in the biggest, best hugs when I need them most. The way she loves doing everything with me, and also doing nothing at all. On one Saturday, George woke up late. He dressed himself and packed a bag with everything he might need for a day with Stella. When he walked downstairs, he found his parents still in their pajamas. Dad's eyes were red, and Mom's nose was all stuffy. George kept his distance. He didn't want to catch a cold on a Saturday. Saturdays were for Stella. But then Dad explained that it wasn't a cold that made his eyes red, and Mom explained why George couldn't see Stella today, or any other Saturday. From then on, George hated Saturdays. He tried to focus on remembering Stella, but it was hard. His parents tried to help, but carousel rides made him queasy, cinnamon rolls tasted sad, and even his favorite jokes made him cry. So George used a big black pen to cross out all the Saturdays on his calendar. His parents started marking their calendar too, and soon there were more trips downtown than ever before. George didn't have to eat funny foods or try on scratchy clothes, but there was plenty of waiting in boring offices. And though they often stopped at the toy store on the way home, George never went home with anything fun. Just when George thought he couldn't take another Saturday, Stella arrived. She wasn't exactly like his Stella, but there was something strangely familiar about her. Now, George doesn't have time to be sad on Saturdays. He's too busy going out with Stella to the park, to the dinosaur museum, and sometimes even as far as downtown. George has introduced her to the wonders of frozen yogurt, fountains, and carousel rides. Sometimes George and Stella stay in on Saturdays. They still have ninja tournaments and fight off alien invasions, but sometimes they throw dance parties and tea parties too. George always makes a batch of cinnamon rolls to share. One Saturday, George makes a list of his favorite things about Stella. The way her arms wrap me in the biggest, best hugs when I need them most. The way she loves doing everything with me, and also doing nothing at all. George loves Saturdays. Saturdays are for Stella. You have been listening to Saturdays Are for Stella by Candy Wellens.